Good evening. If you're listening to this now, you're probably trying to escape a bit from the noise outside, the exhaustion building up, or just your own thoughts. Perfect. Tonight, you're going to travel to a time when everything was simpler and also much, much worse. Welcome to the Middle Ages, but not the one with castles and heroes shining in the sun. Number here, you're a peasant, barefoot in mud, belly half empty, with a lifetime ahead, if you're lucky. Your bed is damp straw, your meals are what's left, and your future, a concept not yet invented. Before we dive in, if stories like this, melancholic, a bit funny, and much more real than they seem, help you drift off or keep you company, consider subscribing to the channel. No pressure, but it helps keep these nighttime journeys alive. And if you feel like it, drop a comment saying where you're listening from and what time it is there. I love imagining the little village of sleepy travelers we form together. Now turn off the lights, let a quiet sound hum in the background, maybe a fan or the soft noise of the street. Close your eyes, breathe, and get ready to be born again. You're going to live as a medieval peasant, and you'll understand why no one ever puts this in the history books. You are born in hay, literally. Your mother screams, your grandmother prays, and a pig sneezes nearby. No doctor, no comfort, just straw, blood, and the sour smell of a curious cow. It's the year 1286, and you enter the world as yet another peasant in a forgotten English village. Your name doesn't matter. Someone will shout something like Tom, and that will suffice. Your father is absent, probably drunk or burying the cousin who died of a persistent cough. You are not born with a future. You are born with a function to survive until the next winter. Immediately after birth, you are wrapped in rags that have covered 3 generations. The fabric is coarse, scratchy, and smells of sheep fat. You cry, and that's a sign of health. Crying is what's expected of a baby. Silence would be an omen. Around you, the world doesn't celebrate. The village continues its rhythm. The mill groans, chickens peck, the chapel bell tolls with punctual melancholy. No one records your arrival. No one will come for you. You are just another future arm to harvest, another mouth to poorly feed, another life that might last a bit longer than the others. You grow up without a written name, without a portrait, without a plan. Your early years blend with the smell of damp firewood, the taste of barley porridge with well water, the intermittent warmth of the fire lit only when there's leftover wood. Your mother nurses you with a distant look. Her time isn't yours. It's for the pigs, the spinning, the land. You have colic, fevers, rat bites on your feet. One bites your big toe at dawn. Your mother screams, kills the creature with a pan, then goes back to sleep. That's care. That's love in the way it can be. At 2, you learn to walk, not by encouragement, but by survival. The beaten earth floor scrapes your knees. You fall on manure, crawl over chicken urine, lick your hand by instinct. The world tastes of salt, earth, and mold. The first words you learn aren't words. They're useful sounds. No, fall, bite, hunger. Your vocabulary grows like moss, clinging to routine. You call your mother, mother, your father, hey, and God, great, because that's how everyone refers to something no one understands. In your 3rd winter, you nearly die. A fever burns for 4 days. Your grandmother places garlic on your chest, a rosary on your forehead, and a candle in the window. The whole village knows. When the candle goes out, the angel decides. But it doesn't go out. You stay, cough for weeks, lose weight, but you stay. Survival is an intimate achievement. You don't get congratulations. You get thin broth. You earn the right to continue. And continuing in this world is almost heresy. The following spring, you carry manure in baskets woven by hands long dead. Learn to avoid the aggressive rooster. Learn to run from older boys. Learn not to look too long at the priest. At 5, you already understand the cycle. Plant, harvest, bury, repeat. And in between, sleep enough to wake before the sun, eat enough not to faint in the field, pray enough not to offend anyone, not God, not the Lord, not your own mother. That's how you begin. In mud, in straw, in others' shadows. No promises, no exceptions, no romance. You are born a peasant. And that's enough to know that the rest of your life will be work, fear, and the occasional moment of sun on your face. By age 2, you walk. By 3, you carry buckets. By 4, you know hunger intimately. It has moods, textures, schedules. Morning hunger is soft and cranky. Afternoon hunger is sharp and dulling. Evening hunger scratches like a caged animal. You learn to chew dry roots and swallow without complaint. Complaining costs energy. Your body figures out that food is currency. A boiled turnip equals a promise. A stale piece of bread equals a lie. Meat? A fading rumor. Chickens are precious. Pigs are dreams. Cows belong to the Lord. Your mother teaches you how to collect eggs without losing fingers. Your grandfather, when sober, shows you how to clean a fish. But he doesn't say much. No one talks much. Words are a luxury best saved for prayer or panic. You grow up small, hollow-eyed, and wiry. Your ribs show when you stretch. Your stomach rumbles like a sermon. You rarely cry now. There's no audience for it. The closest thing to a mirror is the well water. When you lean in to look, the ripples distort your face. You are unrecognizable, even to yourself. In the village, there's a boy named Edgar. He shares a turnip with you once, during a spring so cold the trees refused to bloom. You chase chickens together, get scratched by brambles, laugh without knowing why. Then January comes. Edgar disappears. They say it was the cold. Others say wolves. A few whisper about God. His mother stops talking. His father drinks more. You ask once, where did Edgar go? The answer is a slap and a warning. You learn not to ask questions. You learn to nod. You learn to bury things without digging. Life shrinks to the size of the field. You wake before the sun. You wait for the bell. The bell tells you when to pray, when to eat, when to hope. It never tells you why. One day, your father returns from town with a bruised face and a bag of flour. He says nothing. You say nothing. The flour becomes bread. Bread becomes memory. Memory becomes ache. Your sister is born under the table, wrapped in a bloodied sheet. She screams. You cover your ears. That's the first time you feel rage. Not at her, but at the world that forced her in. Another mouth, another chance to starve. By age 6, you've seen a man die in the field. He clutched his chest, gasped once, then fell like a sack of wet cloth. No one screamed, no one prayed. They just dragged him aside and kept digging. There's a smell you begin to recognize before death arrives. Sour, sweet, human, like milk gone wrong, like a candle snuffed too soon. You make a game out of pretending you're rich. You find a smooth rock and name it cheese. You stroke moss and call it fur. You close your eyes and imagine a castle, one where your bed is made of feathers and your feet never touch mud. Then someone throws mud at your face and calls you rat boy. The dream dies, like Edgar, like the man in the field, like everything. And still, the sun rises, reluctantly, as if ashamed. At age 7, your feet still don't know shoes. You don't miss them. You don't even dream of them. Shoes are for priests, lords, or merchants who smell like wax and words. Your souls know the language of stones, frozen mud, chicken droppings, and manure. Pain is not a surprise. It's part of the terrain. You start waking up before the rooster, before the light, before warmth. You rise because your mother says so, and her voice has no space for negotiation. You carry water from the stream. It's cold. Your hands burn and stiffen. You spill some. She slaps the back of your head, not out of cruelty, but out of routine. You begin to notice how the seasons rule everyone. Spring is frantic, sowing, scraping, praying for rain. Summer is blistered skin, buzzing flies, spoiled food. Autumn is frantic again, harvesting, storing, checking for mold. And winter is survival in slow motion. You learn to count your life in winters. Everyone you survive feels stolen from fate. Your sister coughs at night, a persistent sound, wet and wheezing. You hear it between your dreams and your dread. Your mother makes her a syrup of honey and ash. It helps, or at least it feels like it helps. That's often enough. The village priest visits once a week. He brings no miracles, only warnings. He talks of sin, of damnation, of obedience. His breath smells of dried meat. He says suffering is holy. You believe him, not because it makes sense, but because it fits the world. You begin to develop a strange affection for the animals. Not love. Love is dangerous, but an attachment. The cow that doesn't kick, the old hen that still lays, even the mangy dog that limps but follows you. You give him crumbs. He gives you fleas and loyalty. Fair trade. You learn to stay out of sight when the reeve comes. He's the steward of the Lord's land, a man who can take your grain, your tools, your peace. One time, he takes a neighbor's son for stealing. The boy returns with a broken hand and silent eyes. He never speaks again. You learn from that too. Your world is a small circle, hut, field, well, church. Sometimes you look at the hills and wonder what's beyond. Then your stomach growls and the thought vanishes. Hunger is louder than curiosity. Rain is a constant companion, sometimes soft, sometimes vengeful. You learn to read clouds like scriptures. A dark belly means stay close. A wide gray sky means work faster. When it rains for days, the mud swallows your feet like a beast with no face. Once, during a storm, lightning strikes a tree near the village. The sound cracks the sky open. You run. Everyone runs. You huddle inside the chapel with 50 others, the air thick with sweat and fear. The priest says it's God's anger. Someone whispers, it's just weather. You say nothing. Saying nothing is a survival skill. You get your first real task, watching geese. They are mean, they bite, they hiss. But you take pride in the responsibility. One gets lost, you spend an entire day searching. When you return wet and empty-handed, your father says, next time you'll lose something that bites back. You don't cry, you just sleep. You dream of warm things, bread, a blanket without holes, a voice that says your name gently. In the morning, the mud is still there. The geese are too. Life continues. It always does. You are 9 years old when you first see the Lord's men coming. They don't ride like stories say. They clomp. Heavy boots, heavy cloaks, heavy eyes. They carry scrolls, ink pots, cold voices. One of them sneezes and mutters a curse. Another steps in dung and doesn't notice or care. The entire village stiffens. like chickens sensing the fox. Mothers clutch babies. Fathers straighten backs they can barely hold up. The reeve announces the censors. It's time for the tally. Everything must be counted. Pigs, goats, eggs, children, including you. They line you up. One man with a feathered pen squints at you, says something in French you don't understand, and chuckles. You don't laugh. You lower your eyes. A man nearby records a mark. That's you now. A mark. Your mother wipes your face before they see you, tries to comb your hair with her fingers. She's not grooming. She's apologizing. To them, to you, to the world. You feel her shame like a second skin. A neighbor hides a sack of barley behind a haystack. The Lord's men find it. They don't yell. They just take it. The neighbor doesn't yell either. He just watches. A hollow kind of watching, like someone seeing a dream float away. Later that evening, your father is pulled aside. The steward whispers. Your father returns, blood on his cheek, and a silence that's louder than any cry. You ask what happened. He says, they want taxes. You ask what that means. He doesn't answer. In the days that follow, everything feels thinner. The broth, the walls, your mother's voice. The sky, too, seems farther away. That same week, a girl you know vanishes. Agnes, who once shared her apple core with you when your lips were cracked from thirst. No one talks about it. Her mother stops baking. Her father drinks too much. The priest says something about temptation and God's justice. You don't understand, but you remember her apple. You begin to feel it, the weight of being seen by people who never look you in the eye, of being counted by those who don't count you as human. You are inventory, a peasant, a number, a future tax. Your dreams become colder. You imagine running into the forest, to the sea, anywhere. You tell your sister. She asks if she can come too. You nod. You both laugh, quietly, as if laughter were a secret worth hiding. On a Sunday, the priest preaches about the sanctity of order. He says, every man has his place. You look at the floor. Your place is dirt. That night, your grandfather tells you a story. He says he once saw a stag taller than a man, golden antlers, eyes like fire. It walked through fog and vanished. You ask if it was real. He says, no. But you need something beautiful to lie about. You sleep beside the fire. The house smells of cabbage and smoke. Your mother hums a song with no words. The baby fusses. The dog scratches. You stare at the ceiling until your eyes blur. In the dark, you whisper, stag. And for the first time in weeks, you smile. You're 11 the first time you steal, not out of rebellion, not even out of desperation, out of curiosity. A round loaf of barley bread, cooling on the ledge outside the blacksmith's house, steam rising like a prayer. You snatch it, run, hide behind the church, bite into it while it's still warm. The taste is simple, yeasty, crusty, slightly burnt, but it's the warmth that stuns you. It feels like someone hugged your insides. You chew slower, not out of fear, but reverence. Then you hear her voice. You took our breads. You turn. A girl stands there, arms crossed, hair in 2 rough braids, scab on her chin, dirt on her knees. She doesn't look angry, just interested. She doesn't yell. Instead, she walks over, sits beside you, and says, you didn't run far enough. You hand her a piece. She takes it without hesitation, chews, shrugs, could use more salt. You laugh, unsure why. She tells you her name is Annis. You lie and say yours is John. She doesn't care. Names are thin things here. Over the next weeks, she appears often. When you're fetching water, chasing geese, carrying wood, always with a smirk and something clever to say. She's quicker than you, funnier. You don't mind. One day, she asks what you want to be. You don't understand the question. She says, like in the world. When you're older, you pause. Alive, she nods. Fair. You try to impress her. You climb a tree, fall. She laughs so hard she cries. She stitches the gash on your arm herself, using thread she borrowed from the cooper's wife. Her hands are steady. You wince once. She slaps you and says, "Don't be dramatic." You want her to like you, not because she's pretty, though she is in the raw way of wildflowers, but because she sees you. She doesn't flinch, doesn't pity. She's a mirror that doesn't lie. She tells you she wants to leave the village, see a city, maybe even touch the ocean. You pretend you want that too. But the truth is, the village is all you know, and it's terrifying enough. In late autumn, the fair comes, once a year. Music, carts, spices you've only smelled in dreams. You see a puppet show. You laugh until your ribs hurt. Annis steals 2 apples, gives you 1. Hers has a worm. She eats around it. At the end of the fair, as the carts rattle away and the dust settles, she kisses your cheek, quick, then runs. You stand there, frozen, apple in hand, with your heart thudding like a scared rabbit. That night, you don't sleep. You lie awake, staring at the stars, replaying her voice in your head like a hymn. The next morning, she doesn't appear. Not the next. Not the next. You begin to wonder if you imagined her. But the cut on your arm is still healing, and the apple core is buried behind the chapel. Then one day, she's back, tosses a stone at your foot, says, "Miss me?" You say, "A little." She grins. Liar. You are, and you'll lie again, because now you have something beautiful to keep secret. The solstice comes in with wind and smoke. The villagers prepare the same way they always do, with buckets of diluted wine, half-stale bread, and stories that are more tradition than truth. You're 12, and it's your first time at the solstice bonfire without being told to go to bed early. This means something. This means thus you're expected to drink, laugh, maybe even fight. Annis is there, of course. She wears a ribbon that doesn't belong to her, probably stolen or borrowed without intention of return. She dances barefoot in the dirt with the others, spinning until her braid unravels. You watch, pretending not to. Someone shoves a cup into your hand. It tastes like vinegar and berries. It burns going down. Your stomach knots, but your chest warms. You feel taller, braver, almost human. The music is rough, a pipe, a drum, a voice off-key. But the rhythm does something to your legs. You stomp, you sway, you almost dance. Then Annis pulls you in. Laughing, she grips your hand and drags you into the circle. For a moment, you're not a peasant. You're not poor. You're just movement, just sound, just a boy with dirt on his knees and a girl with fire in her eyes. At midnight, the priest appears, not to bless, but to observe. He never smiles. He watches the young. He watches Annis. You feel it, the cold weight of his gaze. You stand between him and her, though you don't know why. The fire climbs higher. Someone throws an old cloak into the flames. Another throws bones. Then a chicken, alive. Its screech splits the air. The fire accepts it anyway. A hush falls. It's time for the cut. An elder steps forward, knife in hand. He pricks his palm and lets the blood fall into the earth. It's a ritual. No one remembers why, but no one questions it either. Let the land remember us, he says. You think, will it? Later, after the flames shrink to embers, Anis walks with you to the edge of the village. The air smells of smoke and sour wine. You ask her why she danced with you. She shrugs. Because you looked like you needed saving. You say, from what? She says, from yourself. You want to kiss her? You don't. You want to say something clever? You don't. You want to stop time? You can't. Instead, you walk back alone, the night sticking to your skin. Your ears ring. Your feet ache. Your mouth tastes of ash. Inside your hut, your sister sleeps curled like a cat. Your mother snores softly. The fire is dead. You lie down, close your eyes, and feel the rhythm of the drum still pulsing in your chest. It will be months before you feel that alive again. You are 13, and your bones feel wrong, like they're being stretched by invisible ropes. Knees ache, back stings. Your skin outgrows your sleeves, then your boots, then your bed. Nothing fits, not even your thoughts. You're too old to be a child, too poor to be anything else. You work longer hours now, more weeds to pull, more buckets to carry. Your father stops treating you like a shadow and starts treating you like a second version of himself, which is worse. One morning, you step on a thorn. It lodges deep in your heel. You limp for 3 days. The priest says it's God's way of teaching patience. Your mother soaks it in vinegar and mutters curses not meant for your ears. It festers. You learn to walk with one foot tilted like a broken wheel. Anis visits less. She's helping her mother at the Lord's house, scrubbing floors, hauling laundry, pretending not to hear the whispers from the upstairs rooms. When you see her, she's quieter. Her ribbon is gone. You ask if she's all right. She shrugs. Work's work. Then adds, some people get paid in coin, others in silence. You don't know what she means, but you feel it, like a splinter in your chest. There's a boy from the next village who starts walking with her. Thomas, strong jaw, wide shoulders, hands that haven't been broken yet. He gives her a necklace made of twine and bone. You tell yourself you don't care. You lie to yourself, again. The reeve comes one afternoon with news. The king's war needs men. Not yet, but soon. The priest preaches about duty. Your father sharpens tools without speaking. Your mother collects dry herbs like she's preparing for a storm. You hear talk of someone running. A cousin disappeared into the forest. No one's sure if he fled or if he was taken. Either way, they stop saying his name. That's how erasure works. Slow, soft, permanent. At night, your dreams are of walking, always walking, through woods, over rivers, towards something big and blue. You don't know what it is, but you wake with salt on your lips. Your sister draws an ash on the hearthstone, stick figures with long hair and swords. You ask who they are? Us, she says. You want to laugh, but instead you nod. You've started to understand. Hope isn't loud. It's a whisper, a scribble, a small act of defiance drawn in soot. You are 15 when the reeve returns. This time, he brings a list, not of things, of people. You watch your father's hand tremble as he traces the names. Yours is there, written in a language you don't know, but your mother reads it all the same. Her silence says everything. They say it's not a draft, not yet, but they need to prepare. Inventory the strong, the able, the expendable. You are all three. A monk with a crooked back asks for your name, to write it on parchment. You tell him. He doesn't ask how to spell it. He writes a mark, a shape, something that represents you now, in the records of war. You feel smaller than the ink. That night, your sister asks what happens in war. You say nothing, because you don't know, because you do. In the fields, you work harder than ever, not out of loyalty, out of fear, out of the need to control something, even if it's only dirt. Annis still works at the manor. She barely speaks now. When she does, her voice is hoarse. She doesn't look you in the eye. You still remember the apple, the fire, her laugh. But they belong to someone else now, someone who didn't get counted. You try to write a message for her, a note. You don't know letters. You draw a circle and a line through it. You leave it near the well. She never mentions it. Then one morning, the Lord himself visits. His face is smooth, but his eyes are chipped stone. He rides a horse darker than night. Around him, knights, real ones, with clean armor and dead faces. He speaks through an interpreter, as if your language is beneath him. He says something about unity, about the realm, about valor. Your father doesn't translate. He just says, soon. That night, the wind howls like it's lost something. You lie awake, hand on your chest, feeling your heartbeat like a drum from a far-off army. The next day, the village boys practice with sticks. Some pretend to be heroes. Others just hit because they're scared. You don't join. You carve your name into a tree, deep, repeating it until it feels real again. Thomas boasts that he'll be a knight, that he'll win glory, that he'll return rich. You say nothing. He asks if you're afraid. You say, of what? He laughs. Exactly. Annis watches from the corner of the field. Her eyes don't follow Thomas. They follow you, but only for a moment. You hear of a town burned to the ground. No survivors, just ashes. The priest says it's punishment. You wonder if that's all life is. Waiting for punishment, hoping it skips your house. You wake one morning to the sound of hooves. Not many, just one. The messenger delivers a scroll. Names again. Orders. Yours. The morning after the scroll arrives, everything is colder. Not just the air, but the voices, the glances, even the sun, which seems reluctant to rise. You try to eat. The bread crumbles. Your stomach turns. Your mother packs a bundle. Nothing dramatic. Just a cloth with dried beans, half a round of cheese, a flint. She ties it like she's tying off a wound. She doesn't cry. You wish she would. It'd make it easier to leave. The Reeve says you leave at dawn. No armor, no ceremony. Just a dozen boys, half lads, some trembling, some pretending they aren't. Thomas is there, grinning too wide. You are not. Your sister slips you a carved wooden bird. So you remember to fly, she says. You don't know what to say. You don't have words for goodbye. Annis appears just before you leave. She doesn't touch you, doesn't smile. She just says, come back, stupid, not brave. Then she walks away. Her steps are more final than the Reeve's command. The road is long and full of silence. One boy vomits. Another sings to himself. You walk. You walk because it's all you've ever done. The town you reach isn't a town. It's a camp. Mud, smoke, and men who look like trees rotted from the inside. A man with half an ear hands you a spear. Pointy end forward, he says. That's your training. You sleep on cold earth under wet canvas. You miss your sister's cough. You miss the dog's scratch. You miss your name, which no one here uses. The food is brown. The water tastes of iron. The commands come in bursts. Let's march, stop, eat, dig. You dig trenches. You dig latrines. You dig holes you aren't told the purpose of. You stop asking. One night you hear screams, not pain, rage, like a beast being skinned alive. A man is being punished for desertion. You close your eyes, but the sound climbs into your ears and nests there. They say the battle will come soon, the enemy is near, but no one says who the enemy is. You wonder if they're just boys like you, holding sticks and pretending it means something. Thomas says he hopes to kill 5. You say nothing, but inside something shifts. You are not afraid of dying. You are afraid of what you'll have to become to survive. The night before the march, a storm rolls in, thunder like the world cracking. You lie awake, clutching the wooden bird. It's warm from your hand. You imagine it flying back home, landing on the roof, singing your name. You fall asleep to rain, mud, and the heavy breathing of boys dreaming of blood. The march begins before the sun has even bothered to rise. The earth is hard. The frost bites your toes through the leather scraps you call boots. No one talks. The silence is thick, like something shared. A silence of knowing, not ignorance. You carry your spear like a branch too heavy to drop. The man ahead of you limps. The one behind coughs blood. No one stops. When you arrive, there's no castle, no banners, just more mud, more canvas, a stench that clings to everything, shit, metal, sweat, and fear. You are shown where to sleep. You are told when to die. A man called Baron trains you. He's missing an eye, but he sees more than most. You'll want to run when it starts, he says. Everyone does. You don't, because you won't outrun what's coming. You learn to hold a line, to scream with your gut, to fall without dropping the spear. You learn to stop dreaming. It helps. The first attack comes before you're ready. It's always before you're ready. Drums in the distance, horns like beasts in heat, then faces, boys like you, eyes wide with fear and rage. No glory, just panic. You don't remember the first man you stab. You remember the sound, like splitting fruit. You remember the heat, the stickiness on your hands. You throw up after. Baron says, "That's good. Means you're still in there." The days blur. Fight, eat, sleep, repeat. You stop counting how many fall. You start counting how many are left. That number gets smaller. Thomas dies, not in battle, in camp, fevered and twitching. His eyes roll back. His mouth froths. You hold his wrist until it stops. You tell Annis in your head. You hope she hears it wherever she is. You write her name on the inside of your tent, over and over. Not for her, for you, to remember you knew someone real. One night you wake to flames, an ambush. You grab your spear, your pack, your bird. The tent collapses. You run barefoot through mud and fire. You survive. Others don't. At dawn, you count again. Fewer. Always fewer. Baron tells you it's almost over. The king's men are pushing back. You don't cheer. You don't care. You just want to leave. When it's done, it's not announced. There's no trumpet, just absence. The sound of orders stopping. The silence of nothing more to kill. You are told you can go. No medal, no coin, just permission to walk away. So you do. You walk back, no cart, no company. Just your feet, the road, and the memories stuck in your chest like gravel. Your pack holds almost nothing. Dried meat, a cracked comb, the wooden bird. Everything else was either burned or buried. You pass villages that weren't there before, and some that aren't there anymore. Blackened beams, collapsed roofs, silence like dust. You keep walking. One night, you sleep under a tree that smells of mold and fox piss. The stars seem lower here, brighter. You dream of a younger version of yourself, chasing chickens and chewing grass. You wake crying, though you don't remember why. When you finally reach your village, nothing has changed. That's what hurts most. The fields still ripple in the wind. The chapel still leans. The geese still hiss. Your mother sees you first. Her mouth opens but doesn't speak. She wraps her arms around you, gently as if you might break. You nearly do. Your sister is taller, older, wiser in the eyes. She pokes your ribs and says, "Still bony." The dog is gone, buried behind the hut. You find the spot. It smells of wild onions now. You sleep your first night in the same corner of straw you grew up in. It smells different, like dust and smoke and old hope. You dream of Anis. The next morning, you find her by the well. She doesn't run. She doesn't smile. She just nods. A child hides behind her skirt. He looks like her, and not like her. You don't ask. She offers you bread. You take it, still warm. You chew slower, still reverent. You begin to work the land again. The soil is stubborn. The tools are worse. But your hands remember. Your back complains. But your body moves anyway. The seasons pass like breath. Visible, gone. Spring, summer, rot, frost, repeat. At night, you sometimes write in the dirt with your finger. Not words, just shapes, swirls, circles, traces of thought too soft to speak aloud. You keep the bird near the fire. It watches over your sleep, over the space between then and now. One evening, as the wind howls and your bones ache from a hard day's digging, you catch your reflection in the water trough. For a moment, you see your father. Then it's just you again. Just you. You try to fall back into rhythm, but rhythm has changed. The beat is slower now. Every step in the field echoes with things you can't unsee. Every furrow you digs carries the weight of names never spoken again. You speak less. The words feel too big for your mouth, or maybe your thoughts have shrunk. Instead, you listen. The trees, the chickens, the creak of the well. They say things that don't need language. Anis sometimes leaves bread on your windowsill. No note, no knock, just presence. It's enough. The child's, her child, watches you from behind trees. He doesn't speak either. But one day he tosses you a rock, a perfect one, round, smooth. You keep it in your pocket. Your sister begins courting. A boy from the next village. Hands like stone. He looks at her like she's a future, not a burden. You smile. You don't remember the last time you smiled. The harvest is thin that year. The rain came too hard, then not at all. Still, you pull what you can from the dirt. Even disappointment feels like something. You count potatoes like prayers. You're invited to a wedding, not yours, a neighbor's daughter. You bathe, comb your beard, wear the tunic that hasn't fit since before the war. At the feast, you eat too fast. You drink too slow. You dance with no one. Anis watches you from a distance. Later, as the fires dim, she passes by. Her hand brushes yours. You don't turn, neither does she, but you feel it. A pulse, a maybe. You build a fence for your garden. Straight lines, measured corners. You feel proud. Then the goats break it. You rebuild it better. That too is life. Some nights, you hear the child crying. Not yours, but close enough. You sit by the door, carving wood until he quiets. The shape becomes a bird. You place it beside the first. You begin to think of death differently, not with fear, with familiarity. Like a guest who's late to supper, you set an extra place, just in case. One morning, the frost clings to your eyelashes. The air cuts deeper than usual. You light the fire slower. You hold the cup longer. You wonder how many mornings are left. You don't mind not knowing. The child, now older, calls you something between your name and father. You pretend not to hear. But inside, something folds and tucks itself away like linen. Anis brings you honey, real honey. She says nothing. You taste it and remember sunlight. You realize peace is not the absence of suffering. It's the presence of small things that survive it. You're 30 now, or maybe older. Time has melted at the edges. Some days you forget which season you're in. You measure life in firewood piles, in calluses, in how early the frost sets in. Your sister marries. The boy with stone hands becomes her husband. They move into a hut near yours. You share tools. You share silences. You share griefs too old to name. Annis still visits. Brief moments. A jar of broth, a comb for your sister, a glance that lingers. She never stays long, but every visit carries weight, like a letter you read by memory. The child, her son, now calls you old man. He's tall enough to reach the low branch where you used to hide your wooden birds. He finds them, lines them on a plank, and asks why. You say, to remember. He nods like he understands. The land changes subtly. The field grows stingier, the weeds bolder, but you work it still, because that's what you do, because leaving it would be like forgetting your name. There are new faces in the village, young ones, loud ones. They ask you questions you don't have answers for. They talk about towns, markets, gold. You listen, you nod. But your world stays here, in mud, in seed, in the smell of wet wool. Sometimes you think of war, not with fear, with distance. Like a shadow you once wore, it never leaves, but it no longer tightens around your throat. You even speak of it once to the boy. You say, there were days I didn't know if I had a face under all that mud. He laughs. That's enough. A storm takes down the chapel's roof. No one dies. That feels like a miracle. The priest mutters something about signs. You rebuild the fence around your garden instead. You believe more in wood than in omens. Annis grows quieter, her hair streaked with gray. She walks slower, but she still hums sometimes, especially when she thinks no one hears. One night, she stays late. You share stew and sit by the fire. The boy sleeps curled on straw. She tells you she's tired. You say, me too. You both laugh, then fall silent. In that silence, you feel the years between you evaporate. What's left is simple. A warmth, a nearness, a breath. She rests her head on your shoulder, just once, just enough. Outside, the frost creeps in. The fields sleep. And for now, so do you. Winter returns with a new kind of silence. Not the harsh stillness of hunger, nor the tense waiting of war, but a soft, honest hush. You feel it in your joints, in the way your breath hangs in the morning air, in how your bones creak like old floorboards. The boy, not so much a boy anymore, begins to work the field beside you. He curses at the soil like an adult, laughs like a child. Sometimes he whistles, and you find yourself humming along. You teach him how to read the sky, how to hold a scythe, how to tie a knot that doesn't betray you. Annis no longer walks all the way to your door. Her knees ache. You meet her halfway now. She always brings something. Dried herbs, a story, a moment. One day she brings nothing but her hand, and she places it in yours. It stays there longer than it ever has. The days shorten, the nights stretch. You light the fire earlier. You sleep more. Your dreams become lighter. Sometimes they carry the sound of children laughing, though you don't know who they are. The boy asks about the war again. This time, you tell him a story, not about battle, about a rat that stole your bread and led you into a trap. You make him laugh until his belly hurts. That, you realize, is the best revenge against memory. Snow falls heavy that year. You don't shovel it. You let it be. The village slows to a crawl. People visit less. You don't mind. The quiet feels earned. You carve again. Birds, always birds. The boy helps now. His hands are clumsy, but his heart is steady. He paints them, each one a color you would never have chosen, and yet somehow perfect. Anna's hair is white now. She moves like smoke, but her eyes still burn. She tells you one night, "We made it further than I thought." You answer, "We made it enough." She kisses your temple before she leaves, the kind of kiss that says goodbye without saying goodbye. You stand at the door long after she's gone. The stars are low again, the wind softer, the world smaller. You sit by the fire, a bowl of stew in your lap, and for once, for the first time in longer than you can name, you think, I am not waiting for anything. You are past 50, maybe 60. It doesn't matter anymore. Your knees crack like twigs. Your fingers curl like old roots. Yet every morning you rise, not because you must, but because that's what the sun expects of you. The field still gives, less than before, but enough. You don't ask for more. You've learned that enough is a sacred word, small, stubborn, honest. The boy is now a man. He calls you uncle when strangers are around, but sometimes when the nights are quiet and the fire is low, he calls you something closer to father. You never correct him. One morning, he asks about the wooden birds. You line them up. There are 15, each one from a different time, a different grief. You point to each one. This one was for hunger, this one for the first frost, that one for the day she said yes without saying it. He listens. He doesn't interrupt. That's how you know he's grown. The priest is buried in a shallow grave. The new one is younger, softer. He speaks of mercy instead of wrath. You attend his sermons sometimes, not for belief, for rhythm, for the sound of someone trying to make sense of it all. Anis falls ill in early spring, a cough that won't leave. You sit by her bed. The boy brings her tea. She squeezes your hand every time she wakes. You begin carving another bird, slowly, carefully, its wings wide open. She recovers, but slower than before. She laughs less. But when she does, it still warms you from the inside out. She says she dreams more now, of rivers, of climbing hills, of walking with bare feet. You dream too, of her, of the boy, of a field that blooms even when no one's watching. You stop working the field every day. You let the boy take over. He sings as he plants. You sit in the shade and sharpen tools. You feel no shame. Rest feels deserved. Sometimes you visit the graves, your parents, your sister, Thomas. You speak aloud, not for them, for you, so your voice remembers it still has purpose. The winters grow lighter, or maybe you've grown heavier, more anchored. Either way, the cold doesn't bite like it once did. It lingers, it whispers, but it no longer wounds. One evening, you sit outside with Anis. The boy plays a flute someone gave him. The sky turns lavender. You think, this is enough, more than enough. She leans on your shoulder. You rest your cheek on her hair. The birds, carved and painted, watch from the windowsill. You whisper her name. She closes her eyes. You stay there until the stars rise, until the boy finishes his song, until the night carries you all gently into its hush. The thaw takes longer now. Ice clings to the ground like it forgot how to melt. The boy, now a man with lines forming beside his eyes, takes your arm more often than before. You pretend not to need it. Sometimes you don't. Your breath comes slower. Your hands shake. You drop your tools more than you used to. When you bend to pick them up, it takes effort and time and breath. but you still pick them up, not because you must, because you still can. Honest stops coming to the door. Instead, you go to hers. She's thinner, her words softer, but her eyes, still those same eyes, the ones that saw you when you were just mud and bones. She asks you to stay longer. She says less, but means more. You wake up in her hut one morning to the sound of birds, real ones, singing. It confuses you at first. Then you smile, you make tea, you sit with her in silence. The tea goes cold. You drink it anyway. The field is his now, the boy's. He plants rows straighter than yours ever were. He builds a fence that doesn't lean. He names the birds as he paints them. He asks you, what color was the world when you were young? You say, earth and fire and whatever she was wearing. He doesn't laugh. He nods, like he understands more than you thought. The village looks newer, or maybe just cleaner. The new priest plants herbs behind the chapel. The children wear shoes. Someone brings books. You watch all this from your seat under the tree, whittling wood into wings. One day you stop carving mid-stroke. Your hand stills, not from pain, from calm. You look up at the sky. The clouds move slowly, as if stretching after a long sleep. That night, Honest takes your hand and doesn't let go. Her fingers, brittle and warm. Her thumb brushes yours. You lie beside her, breathing, just breathing. The fire crackles. The boy hums from the other room. The world continues. And for the first time in a lifetime, you don't feel like you have to do anything. You just are. The mornings are slower now. The fire takes longer to catch. The spoon feels heavier. The wind sounds different, more like breath than movement. Everything in the world, it seems, has started whispering. You no longer wake with urgency. You wake because your body has done it for so long it forgot how not to. You sit at the edge of the bed. You wait, not for anything, just because waiting feels familiar. Honest doesn't speak much these days, but her hand finds yours without needing to. You speak for both of you now, out loud, in murmurs, in small jokes the boy doesn't always understand. She smiles sometimes. That's enough. The boy, no, the man, harvests alone now. You sit on the fence and offer advice, not because he needs it, but because it gives shape to your day. He listens, even when you're wrong, especially when you're wrong. The villagers treat you differently, not with reverence, with care. Someone always checks if your roof leaks. Someone always leaves a basket. You stopped asking who a long time ago. One afternoon, you hear a bell. Not the chapel, the forge. The blacksmith's apprentice, now a father himself, has made a new bell. Its ring is higher, cleaner, less mournful. You think, maybe that's what progress sounds like. You sit with Honest by the fire one evening. She rests her head on your shoulder, as she often does now. The flames dance. Your heart stutters, not with fear, but with fatigue. You feel her breath against your neck, slow and steady. You remember things out of order. The dog, the bread, the spear, the geese, her laugh. You close your eyes, and when you open them, the fire is lower. The room is dim. Her hand is still in yours. You don't say anything. The moment doesn't need words. You just breathe, and the night stretches long and quiet, like a prayer that forgot to end. The days stretch thin. Even the crows seem quieter. Your walks are shorter now, just to the well, maybe the edge of the garden. The world has shrunk to a few paces, a few faces. You watch the boy, the man, split wood. His movements are rhythm, memory made muscle. He smiles at you more often than not. You see in him a version of the world that might outlast you. Anis sleeps more. Sometimes she talks in her dreams, names and places. Once your name. You don't wake her. The dreams are hers now. You sharpen your last blade, just because. You mend your old coat. You wrap the tools in cloth, label them with scratches only you understand. Preparing, not out of fear, but respect. The fields are golden, a dry, whispering kind of gold. The harvest is good, better than anyone expected. The boy says, "It's your luck." You say, "It's the soil's apology." He laughs. You don't. One morning, you sit in the doorway. The light is soft. The air smells of bread. You close your eyes and listen. Bees, footsteps, a broom on stone. Life. When the boy brings you stew, you only eat half. He asks if something's wrong. You say, "No, I'm just more full than hungry now." You lie down that evening before the sun sets. Anis holds your hand. She hums something without a tune. You breathe in time with her. You think of the first time you touched the soil. The first time you ran barefoot through thistles. The first time you stole bread. The first time she smiled. And just as the fire dies into coal, just as the sky loses its final pink, just as the air holds completely still, you exhale, not with pain, not with struggle, but like a door being gently closed. The house is quieter than usual. The boy moves slowly, careful not to disturb the stillness that settled with the last breath you let go. He opens the shutters, just enough to let the morning in. Dust dances like old spirits. Anis wakes, touches the space beside her, and knows without asking. She does not cry. Her silence is heavier than mourning. They wrap you in linen, not fine, not grand, but clean and warm from the fire. The boy places the wooden bird you carved last beneath your hands. He chooses the one with crooked wings. You would have liked that. The village gathers. Not all, but enough. The old priest recites words that sound softer than usual. Even he seems smaller today. The wind tugs at his robe like a child wanting attention. They bury you by the field where your first furrow was dug, where you taught him to plant. No stone, just a mound, just earth. Afterward, people speak your name. Some remember stories, most remember gestures. A fence mended, a tool sharpened, a bull passed. Anis walks home alone. She does not stumble. She does not stop. The path is familiar, the silence too. That evening, she sits in the chair by the fire. The boy brings her tea. She takes it, holds it, says, "He always liked the cold mornings best." Outside, the geese cackle. Inside, the fire breathes. The carved birds line the shelf. 15, maybe more, each one facing forward, each one waiting. And in the soil that remembers, in the air that once filled your lungs, in the hands of a man who once was a boy, you remain.